Hello and welcome to the Justice Factor. The giant trade union NUMSA says it's walking out of the political marriage made up of the ANC, COSATU and the minuscule SA Communist Party. What happens now? COSATU Secretary General Vavi joins us today to discuss this and other issues. First though, we turn our attention to Senzo Meyiwa, the Bafana and Orlando Pirates goalkeeper who was murdered by gunmen on Sunday evening. Here to discuss his place in football and other issues related to this, we are joined by Minister of Sport and Recreation, Fikile Mbalula. Minister, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Justice. Thanks for having us.
Just how big a loss is this to South Africa and to sport in general?
Well, it's big loss because Senzo had much to offer to the nation, very young, and the age on his side. It's a big loss. You know, there are no words to describe how we feel and also about the loss, because when somebody like him pass on, you know, normally we say that such people are irreplaceable, you know. Most definitely there is talent, but there will never be another Senzo Meyiwa. And I think he was a giant with a big heart. So that was Senzo.
What were your initial thoughts when you heard about the shooting, when messages started getting to you that this had happened?
Look, I came back from Namibia yesterday and I came here to speak about Mlauz in ENCA.
Yes.
And then from there, I went to see a couple of friends and then I went home. Then I switched off. And then early hours of the morning when I switched on my phone, there was this message. My wife told me that Senzo has been gunned down. And I started to check, you know, because I'm on Twitter. It's faster than the Gau train. And immediately I got the message, you know, that Senzo, you know, that's when Twitter becomes useful. I knew then, there and there, from Sokaladuma, that Senzo has actually been gunned down. And I started phoning, you know, and I got missed calls from Dr. Ivan Khoza and Saddam, the Kaizer Chiefs supporter, and Bafana. And those are the people that I started communicating with, and it was indeed confirmed that Senzo was shot in Fort Lawrence.
Why do you think, I mean, all day today you spoke about Twitter, the whole feed has been about Senzo Meyiwa and the loss that this nation, that South Africans are feeling. What was so special about him in particular?
It was special because, you know, justice is just a star that illuminates, and the criminals robbed us of its brightness, you know. Right at the beginning, when things are taking off, and yet this somebody is coming, very tenacious, courageous, you know, his agility won him respect among South Africans. You must remember, Senzo is leaving us with a clean sheet, no goals scored against him in our qualifiers under Shakes Mashaba. So everybody sit up and take notice of this young star, you know, who have come through the ranks, you know, come of age like Senzo. And already, because of this moment and goodwill of winning as a nation, particularly for our football, and Senzo at the helm as a captain, that captured the imagination of the nation. So most definitely, everybody will remember. Even today, after my meeting with SAFA, I went to Luthuli House to see the officials. And President Zuma was speaking fondly about him, you know, that this goalkeeper, you know, who was making it and, you know, making waves and very good and so on, what he was doing, there it goes, just short like that. And I definitely believe that all those deeds that Senzo have displayed, you know, between the poles have won him the respect of many South Africans.
I was amazed by the international reaction to his murder. The fact that people like Seb Blatter, the lead story on BBC and other places, people talking about him, talking about the clean sheet that you spoke about. Will this have an impact on the image of South Africa as a violent country, given what we're going through with the Diwane case, the Oscar Pistorius trial?
Look, at an international level, and for us, it's not good news. And particularly coming again, I mean, as a matter of fact, through crime, you know, and taking a life of a young man, you know, and particularly in sport, and particularly Bafana, our national team. Obviously, it's not going to be good news, Justice. It's bad news for South Africa. And the question for South Africa is how we will actually be in a position to overcome. People die everywhere in the world through crime, but it doesn't get to those, you know, behind the big walls and so-called celebrities and so on. But with us, they've taken, you know, crime has taken away somebody who's key in terms of the development of the sport that is so much celebrated the world over, and number one in South Africa, and that is football. So it's duty bound to attract some negativity for South Africa. The image that we worked so hard in 2012 to reshape, you know, and to make the world look at us differently. Remember, they said we are the capital city of crime in the world. I don't know where will Colombia be, you know, if we're to be number one. But those judges made those conclusions. But we won that battle and got a positive image out of 2010. So this is definitely a reversal of those gains.
Yeah. Let's talk about a bit about that. A lot of people, you spoke about Twitter, a lot of people on Twitter saying, you know, this is a wake-up call for South Africa. We need, forget about the international community. Let's talk about people here in South Africa. Denny Jordan saying, perhaps we should review gun laws. Do you support that?
Gun laws must be reviewed. We must tighten our laws in terms of our overall crime strategy when it comes to the question of the laws and penalties that are imposed. Of course, they are harsher, you know, in terms of those who are perpetrating this kind of crimes. Gun laws...
And you are saying they should be harsher?
They need to be harsher. We need to first and foremost, being harsher, they are harsher, but how do we strengthen the capacity of the investigation, particularly the police, who are bringing the perpetrators to book, you know. But over and above that, I will agree with him. Gun laws, you know, there's so many guns within our society, and there is a public campaign that is joined by civil society in getting those guns back. And every year, police, you know, confiscate and destroy so many guns, but there's still so much that is left amongst our people.
Some people have gone further and said, do you know what, let's have the death penalty in South Africa. This is an issue that comes up again and again. What do you were a deputy minister of police when the police were under attack, for example, when the communities were under attack, you called for harsher action by police. Do you support calls for a death penalty now? In cases like this where an innocent man is shot in the back by a thug?
No, you know, policies are informed, among others, evolved out of a particular system that you embrace as a nation. And I think South Africa, we have embraced a more humanitarian, constitutional, you know, approach that is informed by the fact that we're a constitutional state, and our constitution, in terms of what it's all about, actually take care of all of these things that were debated at CODESA, including the question of...
You're not getting to it. Tell me, do you support calls for...
It's not a question of yes or no. I don't agree with the question of the death penalty for reasons that I subscribe to the Constitution of South Africa, which was thoroughly debated. And we can have a debate about that for another day, but I don't.
Before we move on to other things, let's talk about the 250,000 rand reward for information leading to the arrest of these killers. Questions about 47 people, more than 16,000 people are murdered in South Africa every year, according to the latest crime statistics. People are saying it's 250,000 rand for Senzo Meyiwa. What about the ordinary Fikile Mbalula, Justice Malala, living in Alexandra Township? They don't get this sort of attention, and there's one law for the rich and one law for the poor.
No, those rewards are given out by the police all the time when they chase criminals. It's just that some of the cases don't enjoy publicity, like Senzo's case. And in this particular instance, it's not like there is law for the most popular and those who are not. It's just that there are imbalances in society in relation to how we report these cases of crime and all of that. But I've been in the police. I know for a fact that in any crime situation, police do offer rewards to get and apprehend the criminals as quick as possible.
What should we learn from what happened over the past 24 hours? What should be our takeaway as South Africans from Senzo Meyiwa's murder?
Look, first, on the other hand, we need to resolve, as we have. It must tighten our resolve in what we have started. You know, we know the conditions economically that we live in. Those conditions and the system that we live under economically, socio-economic system, actually enforces the scourge of this crime. Unemployment, that's why people go around mugging people's cell phones, and even if you get that cell phone, they still kill you, you know. And that is the nature of the crime in South Africa, which we have debated for some time. Why so much violent, you know? When you got what you want, including the money, in the case of Senzo, why do you go for the kill? Because you got what you want. And because of our violent past, you still see the nature of the crime being so violent. But at the same time, what we have learned as a nation is that, you know, even today, one guy who's my friend also told me that he was hijacked. These things happen all the time. So the fact of the matter is that it must tighten our resolve in our fight against unemployment and to reduce the level of, but also intensify our strategy and tactics in the fight against crime, police morale, and at the same time, the alertness of the communities to work together with the police to apprehend the perpetrators. Minister
Mbalula, it's a sad day for South Africa. Thanks so much for coming through today.
It's a sad day indeed. Thank you very much.
After the break, we asked Vavi if he will also join NUMSA's long walk away from the ANC-led alliance.